All right, we are finally back. This is the last round, last two picks. Round 21, round 22. There is the squad thus far. Shout out to the Dynasty Hot Sauce podcast. Larry Monkey, Justin Rogers, my boy Shane last night. Was able to jump on with them just a couple minutes. But they roasted my team for sure. It was a Scott Fishbowl roast. They definitely roasted my three quarterbacks to start. Roasted the rest of my roster pretty good. So anyway, there it is. I've hit my roster construction that I aimed to do with this series, drafting the entire team based on WoRP. There's the WoRP roster construction, optimal for this format. I've pretty much stuck to it, right? I said three quarterbacks. Since I took three to start the draft, I've taken that and moved it to three. Wide receivers, I've always kind of been on the 5 train. I'm already at 5. I've stuck to 5 there. Tight ends, I ended up taking 3. So it really stuck to the 3 receivers, 3 tight ends, 5 receivers, or 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, 5 receivers. That's 11. I said the remaining 11 spots were probably going to be running back. Boom. If you see the red here, 9 running backs thus far. So the last 2 picks, I kind of committed, you know what, they're probably going to be running backs based what was on the board. So let's go to what's on the board in the Hormel division. Shout out to everybody in the Hormel division. This last couple rounds have been a little slow, but for the most part, drafts moves pretty slowly. Here's what's left, though. If we go to running backs, the guy I'm looking at here at running back, it's just a lot of bodies. I've looked at Ronald Jones, since I do have Malik Davis as well. Looked at Latavius Murray, as I do have Damian Harris, just kind of hedging my bets on the potential, like who is the potential quote-unquote backup workhorse, I guess you would say, on those teams if the early down back and a point per carry. So both of those are in play. Josh Kelly's in play. That's the guy I'm actually targeting if I'm looking at this list right now. You have Eric Gray also in play. Now, I guess the question here becomes, do I want to go with 2 running backs? Could go Latavius Murray. Could go Josh Kelly. Could go Latavius Murray. Could go Ronald Jones. Could go any combination of those 3 I mentioned. Those are the 3 that are on my radar. Then you go over to the kickers. You know, obviously looking at the kicker scoring, it's pretty juiced up for extra points. If you look at the median average for kickers last year, you're around like 13.5, 14 points per game. The high-end ones were around 16, 17 points per game. Now, a couple have gone already. It looks like 8 kickers have gone thus far. Do I want to take one? Jason Myers would be who I would take. What I think could be a high-end efficient offense. I do have some correlation, obviously, with Geno Smith and JSN, so it would be a, I guess, triple stack if I ever were to play one of those guys. Obviously, I'm not going to need them until week 13 when the bye weeks are gone, if I would probably unleash that stack in terms of all of them being in my lineup for sure. But you also never know. You never know if there's a time before that I would play Geno Smith. Certainly could play him over Daniel Jones in some circumstances. So I'm kind of torn. And I think with the quarterbacks being on buys and with the kicker scoring, I'm kind of leaning going with the quarterback. I'm kind of leaning going with the kicker here. I'm kind of leaning going Jason Myers. So I'd have to make a choice between the running backs that I want of this list. So obviously Josh Kelly, Latavius Murray, Ronald Jones, and the kicker Jason Myers. So I'm going to lock in Josh Kelly. I think Josh Kelly is one of the ones that I've been eyeing since last round that I said I would take. So I am going to lock in Joshua Kelly. So let's get him picked. And boom. So Joshua Kelly is locked in. And I think, given how I played running back, given that I played it, I think with the dominant format at running back, I played it correctly by rostering 10. But realistically, how many of these can I start day 1? Probably Pierce from Andre Walker, maybe Rashad Penny, maybe in Damian Harris. Obviously, I'm going to start 2 quarterbacks. I'm probably streaming tight end at this point. And then the receivers. And week 1, I'm probably going to roll out 3 of these receivers. And I'm not sure about JSN. So I'm probably sitting there going, okay, if I'm confident in 3 of my running backs, I'm confident in 4 of my receivers I can start day 1 with a tight end and with 2 quarterbacks. Do I want to start a kicker potentially early? And Seattle has a really good schedule to start the season. And so I'm actually going to stray a little bit. Never really thought about the kickers much until I got to the end, just because I didn't see the value in taking a kicker. I've seen some people taking kickers in round 16, 17, just didn't see the value there. Preferred a lot of running backs in that range, or especially the tight ends, where I ended up hitting all of my tight ends. But now that we're here, given that I'm already in on Seahawks, given the start to their schedule, given my flex situation to start, I'm going to take Jason Myers. Jason Myers is going to be my last pick. I'm going to lock that in. So Jason Myers becomes the last pick of my Scott Fishbowl. Let me go back and refresh the squad. Yeah, it may take a second to come back and refresh. But anyway, you can see on here, there is the final squad right there. See if it pulls up. No, it's going to take a second. There's the final squad. Stuck to my guns on roster construction. 3 quarterbacks, 10 running backs, 5 receivers, 3 tight ends, and instead of that 11th running back, a kicker. So we will see. I got some heavy bye weeks here. 5 bye weeks in week 5. Bye weeks in week 13. 5 more. 4 bye weeks in week 7. So very heavily concentrated in 3 bye weeks. More than 2/3 of my team are on bye in 3 different weeks. Not terribly uncommon given how they're stacked this year, but we'll see. My argument has always been, A, I'm using WoRP. B, I want to build a team different than everybody else. Is it a winning team? We'll see. Is it different than the masses? I think so. I don't think you're going to see many other teams that are built like this. They're very rigid when it comes to structure. They were very specific at the beginning in terms of how they started. Nobody else started 3 QBs, at least that I'm aware of. If anyone else knows of anybody that started 3 QBs, let me know, but I don't think anybody has. So with that, that's it. This was fun to do this WoRP breakdown. I do want to give a shout out again to southharmonff.com/WoRP. Try out the WoRP tool. We do have a new series called Mind Warped coming out. Should be dropping August 1st. There'll be a pre-sale available this weekend. So check that out. Talks all about how to use WoRP. And it's not just Scott Fishbowl. It's every different format you could think of. We went through dozens and dozens of formats and talked about the nuances of how it changes, how to read the graph, how to interpret the roster construction, how it's different in lineup and best ball. So there's a lot to that series. It's going to be over 20 hours worth of content. We're going to charge for it, but it's very reasonable for the amount of content that you're going to get. So if you're interested in WoRP, check that out. More information on Mind Warped coming soon. Finally, shout out to Scott Fish, fantasycares.org. Half of the Patreon money, or a chunk of the Patreon money, will be going towards fantasycares.org at the end of July. So shout out to patreon.com/dynastyandchill for all the support over there. It's been a absolutely crazy hectic month. It's a good way to end it with getting the Scott Fishbowl in the books. So with that, I will sign off. I do appreciate everybody that has followed along thus far. I've got some good feedback from people about, I can't really see on Twitter how many people view until the video is done. And then you can see obviously the views on YouTube, but more people watch these than I actually thought. Because literally I thought it would just be a couple people watching these just because they're live. Who cares about my Scott Fishbowl picks? There's been, thousands of other people putting their Scott Fishbowl picks in there. But thought it was different, thought it was unique, more to come like this regarding this kind of content, and we'll see how the team does. But shout out to everybody. Shout out to Scott Fish, the WoRP tool, Fantasy Cares. Appreciate everybody. Looking forward to the season. Looking forward to the Fantasy Football Expo. And if anyone's there, hit me up. I should be there for the majority of the week and the majority of the weekend with the panels and stuff on Sunday. So appreciate everyone that's watched, and I'll go ahead and sign off. Happy Thursday, everyone. Be chill.